Good morning, everybody. I hope you guys are doing well this morning. Welcome to our series, and today's topic is going to be focused on creating a comprehensive business plan. I'm your host, Aaliyah. We'll be going over this information with our facilitator, Chanel. Chanel is the founder and executor of TSK Wealth Planners. She also founded Sisters Keepers Wealth Planner in 2020, and her passion is to rid the Black community of poverty and other social disparities caused by social barriers. Greatly, Chanel also identifies as a STEM member in the BIPOC community, and she is invested in personally in stock markets and real estate. She's regularly contracted as a consultant and a coordinator and a program facilitator who works with organizations such as ABCN, MVD Consulting, Boys and Girls Club, Mount Dennis, Sheridan College, and Humber, and of course, BBPA. And there is a lot more Chanel has in her back pocket. She also holds an associate degree in financial management, and she's currently completing her honors bachelor's in finance and is on track to completing her master's. So she has her CSC1 and Bloomberg Market Concepts certification, and she is currently being contracted as a business strategist for grant writing, consulting, and also as a PR manager. She also holds a title of VP of Communications for Guelph Humber Finance Society. She has a plethora of experience, as we can see. So you guys are going to be gaining a lot of knowledge from this awesome Black female. So without further ado, Chanel.
Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Aaliyah. As Aaliyah said, I'm Chanel Smith. That was an amazing intro, so I won't pull everybody back through everything. And today we're going to be talking about creating a comprehensive business plan. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead. I have a slideshow for you guys today. If it's possible for the ladies at the BBPA to give Sakshi host leadership. Sakshi, so she could put the slide up. Today, we're going to be talking about creating a comprehensive business plan. So that, to me, consists of two important parts, which is what this segment is going to be broken up into two important parts, which are a company analysis and an industry analysis. Obviously, we know many people are familiar with going through analyzing their company, maybe what sector it falls into, maybe how they plan on generating revenues, these kind of things. However, what we are going to go through today is how to do more of a specific analysis of a company, looking at all the factors that may affect it, the market, these kind of things, customer segments, so on and so forth. So we're going to start by looking at the 9 building blocks for a business model. And this is us taking a look at company analysis. This is where I like to start. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see that. If not, you should be able to zoom in a little bit and I will read the titles as well. So we're going to go through these 9, and that is customer segments, value propositions, channels, customer relations, revenue streams, key resources, key activities, key partners, and cost structure. So my first warming question is there anyone right now that any of these titles look familiar to? Do any of these company analysis titles look familiar? Do you know anything about customer segments, value propositions? Do you know anything about channels? Do any of these segments look familiar to you? That's my first question of the morning to get us warmed up. You can either chat me, you can come off of mute if you'd like. Yes. Okay, so Aaliyah says yes. And you can go ahead and come off mute if that's what you're comfortable with. Someone, no. Okay, good. Andrew, you gave me 1-on-1s. Yep, that's my usual. I usually have everyone start with a number. Thanks, Andrew. Yes, some of them. Okay, good. So I know you guys are awake. Awesome. Next burning question, and I love to ask this question. It gives me a gauge of my audience. How many business owners, so actually, can we get the next slide? Icebreaker question. How many business owners hear that their business or company is too small or too simple to do structural or strategical analysis. So how many business owners do I have here that are thinking my company's too small or too simple to be doing this type of strategic analysis? Let me know, not yours. Okay, Juliet, awesome, great, love that. Let me know what you guys think so I can have a gauge of the professionals and entrepreneurs that I have on the call today. How many professionals or business owners think here, I'm a professional, I'm incorporated, but it's not that big? Or I'm a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur, but it's not that serious. Okay, great. Andrew says essential. Okay, perfect. Let's go on to the next slide that we're going to dive into the 9 building blocks. Okay. So when we're looking at customer segments, this is essentially our target, right? That's the other replacement word that you hear for customer segments is target. So you're going to take a look at who your primary target customers are, what the key characteristics are of each. So if you're targeting teenagers, millennials are no longer teenagers anymore, but if you're targeting Gen Z, if you're targeting teenagers, you're going to want to know what their regular habits are. What are they into right now? Right? Are they playing video games more? Are they on their cell phones more? Are they interested in investing? Are they not? These kinds of questions are going to be, even though simple, are going to become really important to your company because they're going to end up directly correlating with your marketing strategies, right? And then last but not least, of course, how do our customer segments differ from each other in terms of preferences and behaviors? So if you have multiple target groups that you're attacking, let's say that's an older target audience and maybe like a sub target audience from that. So a lot of the time people will target maybe the middle age and then also like the retiring population so that you're tackling both your target and then you've also got some sort of maybe a substitute to something that's on the market or whatnot that complements the product you already have. So you're going to want to know what the difference is in behavior of the different target groups that you're attacking. So what does this group want that this group does not want? What can I offer this group that I'm not going to offer this group? And so on and so forth. Yeah. You guys let me know. And Aaliyah, I'm not able to see the chat as I'm combing through this. So please just interrupt me and read out any comments or anything like that. I can see Juliet said here, I use Growth Wheel that outlines all of these. Awesome. So next we have our value propositions. What specific problems or needs does our product or service solve for our customer? That's really essential. So oftentimes we have the mistake that people make of starting businesses, maybe just for something that they love or something they like or something they've seen others do. We want to make sure that we're starting businesses that are still fulfilling a need. You want a demand. The economical position that you're coming into the market at is really, really important. If there's no demand for your product, there's no real need to create supply, economically speaking. So we want to make sure that there's a demand and that we're filling a need with whatever it is that we're offering. We want to go through how us offering this is providing something unique to our target and what the main benefits and features are of our product. Next, we're going to look at customer relations, another thing that's frequently ignored in business. So customer relations is something that isn't often planned out. It's typically, it ends up coming into conjunction with business owners because of the fact that they've kind of crash hit a terrible situation. And from that, then they end up having to learn. But it's something that you can kind of organize effectively prior to ending up in any sort of customer service, customer relation type of situations, because prevention is better than cure. And I'm sure a lot of us have heard that. There's tons of things you could do to manage customer relations that kind of is completely opposite to just turning around and reacting when things go wrong, right? So we want to look at what type of relationship does each customer want. And this could be close, it could be distant, it could be completely non-attached, it could just be customers connect to electronic kind of customer service bots and they barely ever deal with a person. But you have to decide what that's going to look like, your customer relations management. And how do we maintain and enhance or satisfy customer loyalty? So we look at all of those things as it comes to customer relations management. Then, of course, revenue streams. What are the main sources of revenue for your business? How do we price our products and services? So according to the market, or if we know that we're offering a competitive product that is unique in a way, are we scaling that up, which we'll talk about later on as well. And are there any additional revenue streams that you can explore as a business? So you want to make sure you're thinking, businesses have, let's say, 3 main streams. I think it's operating, investing activities and financing activities. So that operating is typically your main source of business. It's what you do to make money as a business. Then you've got financing. So that could be loans, anything related to money, appreciation, capital gains. And then of course, you've got investing. So that could be anything that you do with the company in terms of investing activities. That could be trading, anything on the back end, stock market stuff, investing in Amazon, ATMs, tangible resources, the list goes on. So then we have our key resources. We want to know what our essential resources are needed to deliver our value proposition. So our value proposition is obviously the promise we make to our target, our customers, the public. What resources do we need to fulfill this? Are there any key assets or expertise needed to operate our business effectively? And how do we ensure that efficient allocation and management of our resources is conducted? So how are we going to make sure that we're not spread thin, we're not wasting these things? And third last, we've got what are our core activities. So this is key activities. What drives your business? What drives your business model? How we prioritize and execute these activities efficiently? Are there any activities that could be outsourced or automated to improve efficiency? Right now, we really want to look at this one. I'm going to take a pause here at key activities. In this era of technology, era of AI development, this is a really critical question, because what's going to happen now is a lot of people are going to have amazing and innovative business ideas. They're going to come out with them, and the one hitch is going to be that maybe there's something that they could have automated that they didn't. There's going to be a subsequent entrepreneur that's going to realize that, automate that, and in some sort of way come out with a differentiated product that is mimicking that original idea, and it will be okay for them to do so, and they'll gain that previous market share. So it's really, really, really important. I know even Juliet, you're in the hospitality and wellness there. Andrew, I know you're already in tech, but I would say more so to Juliet, audience members in other industries where tech isn't your first go-to. You really want to begin to think nowadays, what can I automate? How can I use tech to improve this? How can I incorporate a little bit of AI? Sometimes customers and targets are even attracted to this just for the sake of it being encompassed in your product or service, right? It's almost like a QR. We know that we can easily copy and paste links and that kind of stuff, yet still just the idea of kind of that tapping or just hovering the camera over, it's the advanced technology makes us more enticed to use the product. So we also want to think that way. And then of course, next we've got our key partners. So who are our key partners? That pretty much, it speaks for itself. What partnerships do you want to add that will add value and enhance your value proposition? How do you manage and maintain strong partnerships? And how do you be diligent kind of and selective about who the partners are that you're going to choose when conducting business? What are the main costs associated with operating our business? How do we manage and control our costs, ensure profitability? Are there any opportunities to reduce costs or optimize expenses without compromising quality or value? And these all fall under cost structure. So you want to know what the main costs are with generating business. You want to know how to manage those things. That falls into budgeting, financial planning as it relates to your business, etc. So is everybody good with that? We covered the 9 building blocks. How do you guys feel about that? Let me see some numbers in the chat if we feel comprehensive. What are we thinking? How are we feeling? Good. Okay, awesome. Is everyone comfortable with the 9 building blocks of business? Does everybody feel like they would know how to maybe fill out a chart like this, yeah, for their business? Okay, good. I'm excited about that because we have an activity next. So go to that next slide for me, Sakshi. Thank you so much. We're going to look at the 9 building blocks in a business model for Apple. So obviously, as we know, Apple's one of the big A's. Most of us are familiar with Apple in some capacity. So I just kind of chose it to be our little benchmark for today for this activity. So we're going to kind of discuss this together and start with customer segments. So starting with that, customer segments, when we think of the questions, and Sakshi, you could go ahead and flip back to the customer segments pink slide there. When we think of customer segments with Apple, what would we put here? How would we answer customer segment questions? Who is Apple's target? What are our different ideas? You guys throw them out to me. Let me know what you're thinking. And based on what we just went through with our 9 building blocks, where does Apple's customer segments fall? And you can either come off mute, you can type in the chat, whatever you're comfortable with to be able to respond. What are Apple's customer segments? So who are their primary target customers? That kind of jazz. And we can type in the chat or we can come off of mute, but that would be my question. We're going to go ahead. We're filling in our first box. We're doing Apple. Juliet says millennials. Okay, do we agree with that? How do we feel about millennials? And feel free to come off mute as well as we get warmed up. I know everyone's defrosting. What are we, 10:20? Yep, we're still defrosting. Go ahead, Juliet. You can come off of mute.
A blessed morning, everybody. Glad to see everybody on board. I just wanted to touch base a little bit, Chanel, in regards to the human side of customer service that you were talking about with AI. That's a big, the AI incorporating AI into our operation. Now, that's I'm on the line with that because a lot of our target audience, they like to have a hands-on and to speak to somebody. You know what I mean? And we did a survey on the different generation, and the gap in between them. And it's not all of them are for technology in the way it's advancing. They want somebody to talk to. And then because we're in the wellness arena, we want to give more of the talking, hands-on, verbal kind of thing, as opposed to an AI, how do they say, the mannequin kind of thing to address certain things. So that certain things we will have the AI in processing, but not on the wellness side of things.
Yeah.
So that's where it's kind of tricky.
Of course, yeah, I completely understand that. Definitely, I think the go-to when it comes to AI, that fear kind of comes to mind of, oh, it's going to replace humans, and the customer service. I agree with you. I wouldn't go that direction either. Being in the wellness industry, I would definitely appreciate other people's appreciation for person-to-person interaction. However, what I would suggest, with that being said, is, and it takes some time, like it might not come to you right off the top, but I would suggest looking into ways that automation can make the experience easier for the guest. So that doesn't have to mean automated like customer service per se. It could be a towel dispenser, for all you know. It could just be like, there's different ways, and sometimes people incorporate tech as more of like a dupe, if that makes sense. Meaning it's not necessary, but because people like the idea of tech advance, it just enhances the experience. So small things, but I definitely agree. I wouldn't replace customer service with AI as well.
Just a sidebar.
For sure.
Rooms, we do have the tablet that you can just type in what you need and it's brought up to you. That's the part of the tech that we do on the service side.
Yes,
but
and that's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Makes things a lot easier, and it goes directly to the right department, and it's exercised immediately, not any delay or anything.
Exactly. No, yeah, for sure. And that is an aspect that it makes sense, and it's smart, and it's enhancing the business to have implemented some automation there, some tech there. Yeah. Definitely.
Chanel, we have some stuff in the chat. So we have Nana, who said people into easy but trendy tech. We have Andrew that said professionals and higher income clients. And then I also put in people invested in high-end or trending technology.
Okay. So these are all great answers. I'm gonna start. The first one I see is millennials. So would you actually, I won't go back and forth. Millennials isn't incorrect. People into easy but trendy tech is not incorrect. People investing in high-end or trendy technology, people enjoy, not incorrect. And then Andrew, professionals and higher income clients, not incorrect. So Apple, their actual key or customer segment would likely be at the general population. So even though we're accustomed to believing that because Apple encourages its customers to also buy complimentary Apple products, and maybe Apple's price point is just a slightly bit higher and these kind of things, the truth of the matter actually is that Apple's general customer segment it's large. They've got a broad base, and we'll look more into this as well in terms of the competitive scale. It will come up later on, but Apple's got a broad target audience. Majority of people who own iPhones actually don't, so not that these people don't own iPhones, but they don't fall into these categories of people invested in high-end trending technology or professionals or higher income clients. Millennials just as much as any other age cohort, and then people into easy but trendy tech. Vaguely, yes, but not really exclusive of anyone. So with that being said, that would be Apple's main target customer segment is general. They have a wider audience. They attack everybody. They've got iPads for little kids. They've got, because we don't want to only think about the iPhone, right? And this is why it's important to do activities like this, because sometimes we have a perception or we think we're perceiving another company or a competitor a certain way. We might position ourselves against that competitor in that way, and that's not their strategy. So for a company like Apple, they actually are, they don't have a specific target. I don't think majority of us can even experience ever witnessing an Apple commercial. They avoid those kind of things where they associate, even in the stores, they try to be as inclusive as possible, encourage people to wear their own clothing with differentiation in the uniform colors and those kind of things. They go out of their way to stress that they don't fit in a box, so that there's almost something DJs like the MacBook Pros, professionals like the desktops, middle-aged people like the phones, they're simple, kids like the iPads, those kind of things. So Apple's just going forward, Apple's main or customer segment is broad. It is the general population. They don't have a specific target to say age cohort. Does everybody understand that? Does that make sense? Yeah, good. Thanks, Andrew. Awesome. So next, we're going to look at Apple's, let me zoom in here, value propositions. And so actually we can slide back to that slide of value propositions so that everybody can have it fresh on their mind. What are Apple's value propositions? So what specific problem or need or product service does Apple's product or service solve for their customers? What would we say? Let me get some answers there. What would we say? So that's a yes to the fact that they do. So they do address a specific problem, yes. So what would we say it is? And how does them offering, we could answer 2 in 1, because how does Apple offering what they offer solve that issue? What specific problem or need does Apple fulfill? I know it's a lot harder when you got to kind of go in and fill in the boxes. Everything seems so simple. Okay, yes. So we've got lifestyle, high quality camera. Okay. Breaking barriers, user friendly, lifestyle and flexibility. Okay. So they fulfill the need of, what would our consensus be here? Convenience, yeah. Flexibility, yeah. So those are needs. So when we're thinking of our company too, these are needs, like not lifestyle per se, but flexibility, not just tech, but convenience. So yes, so those kind of things, they fulfill needs of convenience, they can fulfill needs of flexibility, they fulfill needs of being user-friendly, so complexity, yeah, definitely. And we're all right there. I wouldn't oppose any of that. They definitely fulfill the need for flexibility. They're versatile. You could use their products for multiple things. I think somebody said here, a camera, you could be into content, capturing content, making podcasts. You can find a plethora of Apple products that are going to cater to you or cater to what your service is, right? And you could be a personal person and just be into photos, videos. You could use your old iPhones as baby monitors. It goes on, right? So that's good for us on the value propositions front. And let's move on to, is channels what we've got next? Channels. Okay, so how can we answer this? Through which channels do we reach our target customers? And how do we ensure that our channels effectively deliver our value propositions to our customers? Through which channels? So through which channels does Apple reach their customers? And let's think about this one, right? Because I like the answers I'm seeing, but remember, we previously brought up that topic of, have we ever seen an Apple commercial? Right? Right. Right. They got a bit of an old-fashioned strategy, right? Are there any new channels or partnerships that we could explore and expand? And I'll leave that. So first I'll address some of the answers I'm seeing. So yeah, I'm gonna start with this question. For those of you that say social, because I'm seeing a split. So I see Andrew's in his own lane. He says online and Apple Store. I see that, but I see a bit of a split. I've got my social media people and I've got my word of mouth people. Someone who says social media, either coming off mute would be better. So someone who says social media, tell me why you say social media is their channel. Let me get that hand. Go ahead and come off mute. Why are we saying so for the social media side? So that is Juliet, Bree. Why are we saying social media?
I say social media because a lot of like TikTok, the trending, Facebook and all that, that's where the general public goes to. And then the advertising in regards to their new and upcoming products is also prevalent there, as well as the the usage of TikTok and all that, what they do with their product. People that utilize it, what they do with their product and how it's more effective, especially the newer ones coming out. So that's why I said social media, not in an advertising way for Apple per se, but the media advertising for Apple.
So what do we call that? Can someone tell me what we
There's
call
a
that?
name for Apple.
Yes, there
Affiliate
is.
marketing.
There is. There is.
Affiliate marketing.
Is that Aaliyah? Go ahead with that.
Yeah. Affiliate marketing. They're marketing through the people that are buying
People,
their products.
yes.
So it's not necessarily them that is marketing through social media, but it's the people who are benefiting from the products.
Exactly.
doing it for them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And was that why your hand was up, Aaliyah, as well? Or were you going to make a subsequent
Yeah,
comment?
that is exactly what I was about to
Oh,
speak.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay, good. And I'm glad that you guys said that, because you just landed my bridge onto the other side, which is the word of mouth side. So realistically, that side's more right. So Apple has an old-fashioned targeting strategy. As a matter of fact, they use what we would call kind of like the native strategy of advertising. Yes, word of mouth, and yes, affiliated or targeted branding, all of that. Movies. Before you see an Apple commercial on the TV, you're going to see a Grammy nominated movie with everyone with iPhones in it, a MacBook on the scary scene, all that kind of stuff, right? So they do a lot of branding in that way. So branding as opposed to marketing. And then it's a lot of word of mouth. You enjoy my product, you're going to tell somebody you enjoy my product, and that person's going to tell 5 people they enjoy my product, and so on and so forth, right? Also, I've got a question for you guys as well. So when we talk about channels and channels that we use to target customers, has Apple also made another method of hearing their customers' complaints or knowing what changes to make? Have they kind of made something more popular as well in the cell phone industry? What are we calling that nowadays? I wonder if anybody's going to hit the nail on the head. Maybe Andrew will hit it. What do we call nowadays what Apple and some of the other technological brands, desktop brands, have brought to the market so that they can know what their customers are doing or what they want, or hear what our favorite ideas are, activities. What do we call that? What is that channel? What do we call that? Okay, it's feedback, but what is it called? What do we call that? Comments under App Store. Okay, little bit more techie. Let's get a little bit more advanced. Where are we now with the tech? I'll give it to you guys. Cookies. FAQ is good too. FAQ is good to have, but we're at cookies. We're at Apple has permissions. They hear the things that we say, the suggestions that we make, right? You know, you give Instagram permissions to have your mic on if the app's open. So Instagram will listen the things that you say. Let's say right now, if I start talking about Cardi B a lot or something, I'll open my explore page. My Instagram's gonna, like, Cardi B is gonna appear, right? So cookies, these are real things. If you didn't know, now you know. Exactly. Trailing footprints. Yes. So that's where we are right now. We're in the day and age where we leave a technological and an electronic and a digital footprint. And these are the things, the channels that companies use that we should be thinking about as companies to communicate with our audience. And it takes it a little bit deeper, and one takes advertising and marketing a step deeper, customer retention, customer relations a step deeper when you dig into these little things: customer footprints, cookies, you're analyzing your communication channels, branding instead of just advertising, right? These kind of things. Aaliyah, go ahead.
I also think that something that wasn't mentioned was their reverse strategy. So Apple has a strategy where they advertise through exclusivity. So you don't get to see what they offer until you have what it is. So because you feel left out, that red velvet rope policy, now you buy into their product in order to have that marketing to see what they actually have it.
Yep. Precisely. I agree with that. You hit the nail on the head. And I definitely, you know, some might think that that fits into customer segments. I would go as far as to say it doesn't. I would put that into channels, because there's a little bit of psychology there, right? And they're communicating with the customer without words being said. I have Apple everything, and I have no idea how I got here. Right? It's just that feeling. If you have some off-brand AirPods, it's incomplete, right? So they've done the psychology to see if there's ways that they could create that vibe. And even if you have a smaller business, if you're selling tumbler coffee mugs for on the go, right? You brand the hell out of that coffee mug, and then you add complementary products. Okay, what's somebody doing that carries a coffee mug, right? Maybe they also, if they're using a reusable coffee mug, what comes to mind for me? I don't know, reusable bags. Okay, great. So Lululemon did a thing. They've got girls carrying around those little Lululemon shopping bags like they're handbags, right? Even though it's just a shopping bag. Okay, that's something else your brand could come out with, because that goes with the reusable vibe. Like, these are kind of things. And then before you know it, you've got your own little, maybe 5 products or so, completely branded, aesthetically pleasing by your company, that complement one another, that give your target audience the idea that if they don't have one, they're not getting the full benefit of the other. And that's what Apple has done. If you don't have a MacBook, yeah, an iPhone's great, but you get the maximum out of your iPhone if you have a MacBook too. Yeah, MacBook's great, but you get the maximum out of your MacBook if you have headphones, AirPods too. And, you know, a TV's great, but you get the most out of your TV if you buy one of these Apple HDMI connector cords so you can connect it back to your phone, right? So you kind of just want, or in a way it feels like you need everything. So great job there with the channels. Next up, we have customer relations on our chart, right? So that's what comes next. What type of relationship does each customer segment expect from us? And this is a good one too, because we look at Apple as such a renowned brand, but when we think about their customer relations, how would we look at it that the company has kind of planned this, or how did they strategize this? What is their relations like? I don't know if live feedback was to this or previous, but what type of relationship does each customer segment have? So what does Apple strive to do with their customer service, their customer relations management? How do they go about this? What does this look like? How do they maintain and enhance their customer satisfaction? What is this process like? What do we think? What would we put in here? Okay, we've got warranties, exactly. That's a big one. That's a really big one. That's one of the ones that people almost, right? You buy an Apple product, you just know you've got your year, right? Warranties are good. Deeper to their warranties as well. They've got additional kind of bonus policies with certain products, right? So like their wired headphones, if there's any damage, you can bring them back. And as long as you purchase them in an Apple store, you'll get a fresh pair. Deals for students. Yep. Yep. Value maintenance. So trade value for upgrades. Yep, exactly. Yep. So they make it possible for you to stay up to date, right? For you to have the highest valued product. They make that possible. They make sure that there's pathways for that. How does Apple handle customer feedback and complaints? Because there's two ends of this. We have spoken about both ends thus far. So what are somebody give me one of the two or two of the two. How do they handle feedback and complaints? How would we say if you even have a problem or need to give some feedback? How do they handle it? How would we say Apple handles feedback and complaints? The one that comes to mind for me is what we just discussed. So for example, they use, a lot of tech, instant feedback, exactly. Yeah, submitted via Apple software. So Aaliyah hit it right on the head. That was what we discussed earlier, is that they're constantly monitoring your digital footprint, right? So the one thing about Apple, unless it's probably like a technical issue, majority of people don't really experience a situation where they have to be talking to Apple all the time, right? Customer service. And that's because they're constantly kind of listening, watching, looking out for glitches, paying attention to social media for what the consensus is, what their customers are talking about, so on and so forth. So Apple is a company that follows a famous strategy, just like Jeff Bezos and a lot of the bigger guys that we know about, which is that idea of like pushing your product and then iterating. So you push a quick product out. I think Tafari Bailey was on here before, talking a lot about this. He really pushes this strategy. You push a product out and then you iterate. So what does that mean? What does that look like? Is that you put you make sure you have a strong relationship or strong channels with your customers so that you can put whatever product, whatever minimum viable product out. So least effort, cost the least, you put it out towards your customers, and you make sure that that communication channel is so open that as they give feedback immediately, you're in a position where you're able to iterate, adjust, edit, update, or make the appropriate changes to that product. And exactly like Leah's mentioning again, that's an agile method. So you're kind of able to stay on your toes. You're constantly listening, you're constantly tapped into your customers and your target, and you maintain, it doesn't have to be close, right? So that's what we talked about before. To see if anyone was going to think of that, is it doesn't have to be close, right? You can have a distant relationship with your customers, but still be tuned in on what their feedback and what their reviews are. So you don't, they've kind of mastered the idea of like, I'm not ever present. So with their support, they're not ever present. You don't always need me, but in the event that you do, I've kind of already heard you, right? And customers like that. So we've got revenue streams, and we won't spend too much time on this. We obviously know how Apple generates their revenue through their products. Is there anything anybody would touch on in terms of seeing or noticing that Apple does any activities besides the sale of their goods, their products, in the back end to generate revenue or to generate money? A main thing comes to mind for me. Let's see what you guys think. What else does Apple do in the back end to generate revenue aside from just direct product sales? Licensing. That's a big, big, big deal for them, right? Apple has a ton of intellectual property. So licensing is really, really critical, right? Subscriptions. Yep. Amazing. And I'm going to throw this out there. What about partnerships, right? So my first business was in the aesthetic industry, and I can remember dealing with Square point of sale system at the time, and they weren't connected to Apple at that time. And during that year, I watched the merger happen. It was something Apple just hopped on so quick because Square just had this this look, whatever the case may be. And they just made sure they were all over it like white on rice. And majority of people had no idea that Square was a separate entity from Apple by the time it even got a chance to blow up. So that's a main thing for them. It's almost like an investing activity is their acquisition of partnerships and other and smaller firms, right? At a really critical time, just before the industry's ready to capitalize on it, they make sure they get in, right? They've got some market share. How are we connected to this company, this system before it gets a chance to take over, right? Awesome. So next we're almost there, key resources. So what are the essential resources needed for Apple to deliver? And are there any key assets or expertise required for the business to operate effectively? And how do we ensure the efficient allocation and management of our resources? And this one's a little bit more complex, right? Because now we're getting into a little bit more of the strategical part of the analysis. So what kinds of resources are essential for Apple to be able to deliver? And of course, Leah said we've got tech, right? Tech, engineering. Anything else? Prior to this, we were talking about intellectual property, right? So are there any assets or expertise? Apple's got a lot of intellectual property. It's what they spend a lot of their money on. R&D, consults of this, expertise in that, analyst of this, right? They spend a lot of money on intangible resources because of their market share or their position in the tech industry, right? Would we agree? Okay, sounds good. Key activities. So we know the key activities that drive Apple's business model. I'm going to swim through a couple and we're going to go to the final. The middle two are straightforward. Key activities, key partners, straightforward, and some of those topics overlap, but we're going to go to cost structure. And I'm going to ask you guys, what are the main costs associated with operating Apple's business? By now in our chat, we've probably gone through it maybe 3 or 4 times at this point. So what are the main costs associated with Apple operating their business? Don't say tech. Give me your answers. Don't say tech. Because if we're talking about tech and we're talking about the actual tangible materials in themselves, they are not the most expensive. They are not. They're main, I guess, they're important, but they're not most expensive or they're not the larger costs. R&D, Andrew says, exactly. Yeah. Probably the larger of, I would pin R&D up against like intellectual property and separate the two, meaning like research and development, what's in process, and then intellectual property, what's been established. But I would put them at the same value, the highest value. IP, customer systems. Okay, so that's more infrastructure. Okay. Yeah, and legal. Yeah, Andrew, I see that too. Yeah, so definitely at the top of the list, there are going to be R&D. So that is more of their processing. So their research and development, that's a high cost. The processes of going through that, it's going to cost them a lot of money. And that's going to be right up there, probably tying for #1 place with their intellectual property. And that's going to cost them a lot as well. And then I would say IP, this kind of stuff, customer systems, yes, but more so than that, the security of it. So more expensive than the system in itself would be the security. And then, of course, Andrew hit another nail on the head right there when he said legal, right? So they've got to be bulletproof there. So up at the top would be the R&D, the intellectual property, cybersecurity, and then the legal, right? Okay, awesome. So thank you guys for getting me through that activity. It was amazing. I actually definitely thought that it might have been less interactive than that. So I really appreciate you guys for participating and throwing out your ideas, which were amazing. And moving on from that, before we go, I want to make sure everyone's comfortable with the 9 building blocks of a business model, right? If you had to do your own business model right now, can we just go back really quick, Sakshi? You would be comfortable with these 9 pillars. Yeah. Let me get some numbers in the chat. Let me see if you're still awake. See some numbers. 4 is my favorite. Let's get some numbers in the chat. Let me see that everyone's awake. Okay, Andrew, Juliet, got you guys. Let me see. Is everyone else participating up? Good to go? Okay, good. So we're going to move on to our next section here. Still under company analysis, but looking at one of my favorite, which is Porter's competitive advantage matrix. And this one is super duper fun, of course. We measure competitive advantage, right? So it speaks for itself. Obviously here, let me just grab my notes from you guys. We're looking at a quadrant. Is anyone familiar with this? That would be my first question. Has anybody seen this image before? Is anyone familiar with this? Let me know. Ali, I can't really see the chat now, so if a response comes in, let me know. Has anyone seen this graphic? Is anyone familiar with this type of matrix? No.
Mostly, there's only a no. Yeah.
No. Perfect. Great. So this kind of gives us an idea of where we would want to put our business in order to be able to strategize. Some people like to start with their 9 building blocks because they've got a lot of ideas and notes on their mind. For me personally, I would probably advise that you even start here. You want to be able to gauge your competitive advantage. The 2 major ways of doing so is through cost differentiation or through competitive advantage, which is uniqueness. So that has to do with how unique your product is, how different it is than other companies that are on the market, and maybe what adds value to it that would make somebody pay either more, or what takes away value from it that would make someone be willing to pay less, right? And why you would want that to happen. So we'll start here. What would make someone want to price a product lower than their other competitors? Why would you want to price a product lower than other competitors, the other companies in your industry? Promotion. Juliet says promotion. Awesome. Why else would you want to price lower? Have competitive pricing. Yeah, of course. Attract sales. Great. That's the answer right there, right? So Nana hit the key answer right there, attracting sales. So the assumption is that if given all factors remain the same and you're selling a product that's reasonably around the same value as the similar or same product of your competitors, and you end up at a lower target price there, that most likely you're going to have increase, so more sales than that of your competitors offering a similar product at a lower price. Does that make sense to everybody? Juliet, you got your hand up for me. Go ahead and come off mute.
Yes, it does make sense, but when you're new in the market and you have bigger competitors around, you want to make sure that as you enter into the market, you're known not just for the price difference, but for the services that you give that the other competitors don't have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm
That's
glad that
key and everything.
Exactly. Yep. I'm glad that you said that. So when it comes to and build brand reputation, when it comes to this matrix, what we're looking at is typically you're not able to focus on both. So the idea is that if you focus on product differentiation, service, specialty, uniqueness, that kind of stuff, that's going to cost you money, right? So you have to price your product adequately with what the product has cost you. So if more of your money goes into enhancing the product, then you've got to charge up. It's kind of like something that tips the scales. So it's an understanding of cause and effect economically, but on a micro level. So just in terms of your business, is that if you enhance a product, the more unique you make it, the more, hey, if you could do it for free, then or for cheap, you fall into that box of high differentiation and low cost, which is why we're looking at this quadrant. However, it's typically assumed that if you have high differentiation, high uniqueness, it costed a lot. So you've got to raise the cost of your product or your service. And if you've got low differentiation, low uniqueness, basic, simple style model product service, then you can charge a lower cost so that you can make more sales. So you have more sales volume, right? With that being said, the best way I felt like I would be able to kind of analyze and go through this idea with you guys was through an activity. So we're going to look at some of these, and Sakshi, you might have to drag and drop. We're going to look at these companies, these 5 or 6 companies, and we're going to put them where we would think that they would fit on Porter's matrix matrix in terms of competitive scope and competitive advantage. So that has to do with cost. Do we think their strategy is low cost, wide target? We're back to this target idea, right? So we were talking about Apple. We're talking about their target segment, which I won't answer again because I'll leave it to you guys to answer. And then we're going to talk about their cost strategy. So do you have a wide target, you attack everyone, and you've got low costs, or do you have a wide target, you attract everyone, you've got higher costs? These kind of things, we're going to see how they correlate with each company and then fit them on the matrix so that we could gain the deepest understanding possible of how this exercise or how Porter's matrix kind of works. With that being said, it will give us an understanding of where we place our company. And from there, it kind of plants the seed, not kind of, this is probably the most important seed. A lot of business owners don't do this, and 2 or 3 years down the line, you end up a little bit in disarray, kind of in a position where you're just trying out random ideas to see what hits next. Really, what we want to do is plant certain seeds from the beginning so that we know our position. That's market position. With that being said, it doesn't put you in a box, but then you know that when you move forward, you'll also know how to move forward. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah, market position. Okay. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So let's go ahead with our first. And we've got Porter first. Don't move it yet, Sakshi. Let's give everyone a chance to respond. For Porter, where would we put Porter? Low cost, high cost, large market, small market, and where do we put them in terms of differentiation? Porter, Porter, Porter. Are we saying low cost? Are we saying high cost? Are we saying broad market? Are we saying narrow market? Where are we putting them? Is everyone familiar with Porter Airlines? I'll start us off to warm us up. Okay. Oh, no, we got it. Narrow market in terms of destination. Okay. But cost could place them in a broader market. Okay. Yeah. Nana said you haven't. So Porter is an airline, low cost. Yeah. So narrow, okay, so Anam, since I have a couple of narrow markets, let me, Anam, do you want to come off mute, or Liam, one of my narrow markets, come off of mute and let me know what is the narrow market?
Well, the reason why I'm thinking narrow market, they don't travel, like they're not competing all over the world per se. They go to some specific destination. So it's like a niche market, right?
Okay.
You want a low cost and a niche market. They're the way to go. That's how I see Porter.
Okay. 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 And Aaliyah, would you say the same thing? Are you saying narrow because of destinations? Yeah.
I think narrow definitely because of destinations, but also because unlike Air Canada and WestJet and Air Transat, who obviously have broader destinations on their spectrum, they don't focus on giving you the cheapest flights. And I tell you that because I actually do the flying stuff, and I fly every week. So Porter is not one that price matches or has sales often, because I think their market is very dependent on the business class, because often the destinations that they go to, which are lower class hubs or main hubs, it's because they're business destinations, and that's why they only travel for such a short amount of time. So because businesses or corporations are the ones that are invested in them, their niche is to cater to mostly the business department. So that's why I say that's a narrow market.
Okay. So, and those are all considerably, I would say considerably pretty good observations. However, Porter would see themselves as being having a broad target market. So they don't specifically market. It's important for us to know that there's a difference between the audience that tacks onto a product and the audience that a company, when you're an entrepreneur, when you're running a business, the audience that you're attacking. Porter isn't specifying that they're attacking a specific audience, meaning business people, meaning business class, meaning low class, meaning I'm going to take low class back. They're not targeting business people, professionals per se specifically. They are not targeting specific countries. Their main target is costly, like they deal with cost leadership. So they're supposed to be cheaper, more cost effective without all the extras, but more cost effective than every other brand. Juliet, you can go ahead. Your hand's raised there.
I was going to say that they're just picking up the slack for the rest of the airlines. And so what they give, I mean, it's not the best. It's like Swoop, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Swoop. They don't give the best environment treatment, but it is what it is. The cost is there, and you don't have to pay extra for massive amount of luggages and stuff like that. So they pick up where you can't afford Air Canada, Sunwing, and all those those airlines. So, and they make a killing just by doing that, just picking up the slack.
Exactly. Yeah. And that would be, even though all these other things are true, that would be Porter's main strategy, is that they pick up the market slack for the airlines that have all the extra frills, like the extra things that you're paying for, service, a nice experience, a cute lady with a little smile, like all these extra things. Meanwhile, Porter probably has the girl in just like a plain black dress and a little attitude, right? So that's their strategy, is we're going to come in at a lower price point, shake all the extra stuff off, and make ourselves affordable to whoever. So the other observations are good as well, which is what will end up helping Porter as a company, is observing, oh, okay, well, we've realized that even though we've opened up to everybody, we're mainly grasping market share from professionals, or because professionals that actually have more money tend to travel more frequently and are more inclined to buy just everyday cheap regular flights. If you fly regular, and Aaliyah, you know this too, you fly regular, it becomes a little bit more like kind of how you go to your car. It's less you care about less of the frills and more just about, okay, I'm just going to A to B. It doesn't the extras don't matter the way it does for a person who's investing $20,000 into like a family vacation or something like that. You're going to be like, listen, like, I need this girl to smile at me. I want my food. My kids got to pee 8 times, like all that kind of stuff, right? So that's where Porter fits. Next, we're moving on to Whole Foods. So where do we put Whole Foods? Don't place it yet, Sakshi. Let's get some answers first. Whole Foods, Whole Foods, Whole Foods. I know you guys got this one in the bag. Where do we put Whole Foods? Are we low cost, high cost, narrow target? So do we have differentiation? Is it narrow target or is it broad? Whole Foods. Differentiation focus, right? Juliet, broad target for Whole Foods? Broad target?
Yeah, I say broad target because broad target comes with organic, conscious-minded people's food, and even the no-frills people who would not go to Whole Foods because of the cost factor, because it's expensive when you at the end of the day, but they will go to that because of they're being conscious of the things that they eat. And one thing I learned a couple weeks ago, there's a number that is associated with each fruit. And each number is I think it's the highest one is 9. That means it's good quality. Number 4 is you're on the brink of not organic, but regular and chemically enhanced. Going down to 2 and so forth, don't buy, period. And that's why when you buy certain fruits, they spoil so easily because of the category that they come under with those numbers. So with you buy fruits at Whole Foods, it's going to last you a little longer. You pay for what you're getting.
Exactly. So with that being said, that is their strategy. So the reason a person, and I'm glad you brought it up, so that is what would make their target narrow. So they have differentiation focus. So now we're kind of getting a little bit, we're closer and closer on the niche of things. So we know cost leadership is about using price. So let's say a company like Porter, where they're just like, we're just going to drop our price down, keep everything else to the bare minimum. Company like Whole Foods, we can know for sure their differentiation focus, because as you said, The reason somebody's still going to go to Whole Foods, even though No Frills might also have a red apple too, but it's half the price, is because of that guarantee they can get from Whole Foods, right? So that is, you're right there. And just to build on it, that is their differentiation strategy. So Whole Foods would fall for us in narrow target there in the bottom, but then on the right side in terms of differentiation. So does that make sense? I think it's slow, and this is how I had to grasp it as well. And that's why I was really excited to do this activity with you guys, because I think as we do it, it slowly starts to you have that like, oh, okay, right? Okay. So let's go on to, and feel free to come off of mute, guys. I don't ever feel interrupted. I'm used to facilitating. Come off mute if talking is your thing. If not, type anything in the chat that you want to discuss or any questions, and Aaliyah or myself will get to it. So let's move on to No Frills. Okay, where are we putting No Frills? What are we doing with No Frills? What's up with No Frills? You guys, 30 seconds in case anybody's typing. And if you want to come off of mute, you can. Broad target, good. We got broad target. Awesome. Okay, broad target. And then where are we going with cost? Where are we going with cost? Is it, it's not, yeah, exactly. Low cost, right? Yeah, low cost, broad, amazing, perfect. Goal, we did it. Low cost, broad target, right? We know No Frills, it's a familiar one. You know, you could get the cheaper groceries, all that kind of stuff. It's for the family, it's for everyone. It doesn't, it's not exclusive, it's inclusive, but you've got that lower cost, right? You might be getting closer to the expiry date with some of the products, so on and so forth. Okay, next up, we've got the one we've been working on today, Apple. Where are we putting Apple? Interesting. I'm gonna come back to Aaliyah's point there as well. We analyzed this, and the conversation in my mastermind group, and the conversation ended up in a little bit of an impasse. So I'll tell you guys what the correct answer is, and then we'll also go back and forth and see what sides of this we have. Differentiation, broad target, right? Okay, so that's Andrew's come in with the right answer there. So top right, Apple with differentiation and broad target. So they want the whole market. Apple is, you're not going to see Apple say, oh, we were made just for the perfect middle-aged woman. Absolutely not. They will never. Apple is broad. If there was something they could come out with for animals, I think they would. I think right now they've got an air purifier. So they've got like a really broad focus, and then they're focused on brand differentiation. So you know their brands, you know Apple, you know kind of what they do, you know their signs, you know what's unique about them. Even if you don't have an iPhone, you probably know how to use an iPhone, so on and so forth, right? Yeah. Okay, good. So we can all agree there, differentiation, product differentiation, the uniqueness of their product, and then broad audience, right? Almost done, 2 down, 2 more to go, sorry, 4 down. So Walmart is what we're looking at next, Walmart. Broad and differentiation, one-stop shop, low cost, price matching. Bit hesitant with that one, yeah. Yeah. Do you guys think that Walmart strategy is kind of like Apple strategy? Broad and aggressive. Yep. Yeah. Honestly, you guys are all right. So even though everyone's hesitant about this one, everyone's right. Yeah, they fit with Apple, right? They've got their, again, they want the whole market. Only place you could remember when Walmart started selling produce, right? Do we remember that? Everyone thought it was crazy. It was like, are you kidding me? Are these guys really about to sell grapes and stuff as well as tires? Right? So Walmart's definitely gone for the entire market, but their prices are not competitive. You're not going to go to Walmart thinking in mind, I'm choosing Walmart instead of something else because of price. right? And we're going to get to the end there where this word instead becomes really critical to business. Business is all about competition and substitutes. And we'll get deeper into that as well next week when we do more industry analysis. But business is all about instead. We want to remember that, right? Why would this customer come here instead? Why would they buy this instead of that, right? Exactly. Walmart's everywhere. It's convenience, it's everything, but we're not going to say it's the cheapest, right? It's not price. And then last but not least, of course, we've got Gucci. And where does Gucci go in? Where is Gucci with? Who do we affiliate Gucci with? Where are you buying your groceries if you're shopping at Gucci? Right. So Aaliyah, would it make them cost focused? So when we say cost focus, that means that the company is using cost competition to make themselves competitive. So if they're cost focused, they're focusing on using cost to create their differentiation. If they're differentiation focused or brand focused, they're focusing on using uniqueness or product to create their differentiation.
So that's what I was going to bring up and ask for clarity on a while ago, because I feel like sometimes it could be seen as cost focused, but it's still within the lane of other designer brands. And that still fits the category of high end, which puts them at a differentiation focus.
Perfect. And just to elaborate on that there, what part of Gucci makes you say cost focus?
I guess in terms of the sales that they have occasionally, but thinking of designer brands, they don't often have sales, but in the case where they do have sales, it could be competitive to Fendi, to Louis, those other places. But I mean, when I look at it, like how you clarified it a while ago, I would just think narrow and differentiation focus. But also another question.
Yeah.
Could they fit broad target market? And I say that because though their stuff is higher end, socioeconomic class can be seen as their differential focus, but it could suit everyone because at the end of the day, everyone wants to be in Gucci. Are they trying to speak to that broad target market? I don't think so. So that's why I would say narrow.
Okay. Yeah, no, I would make the same analysis as you. Definitely, they've created a brand that has enticed the general, like everyone for the most part. Like it is something that is wanted and it's desirable, but it's not affordable. So then we have that difference between every company should attempt to achieve like a general likability for the most part. Even if I'm selling baby products, I still aim to be liked by adults, like if that makes sense. But 100%, they're gunning after the pockets of people who've got the money in their pockets, more specifically than a clothing brand like Roots or something like that, that is clearly made for someone who can just, go out and buy a pant at an average market price type thing. So hopefully that kind of clears that up, but you already kind of cleared it up for yourself as well. So, Juliet, you can go ahead.
Yeah, Aaliyah, you said social economic class, but what I find in I did a survey in regards to, what the general public likes, and we're talking about our people as well. We are about branding as opposed to wealth. We can't afford it, but we will spend our life saving just to have a Gucci, to say we have a Gucci. And then it sits there and to be socially not balanced, but imbalanced, to say that, well, yeah, you have a Gucci, you can afford a Gucci, $5,000. I can afford a Gucci too, just to be a part of that social climb.
Yeah.
We're not thinking about the generational wealth that we're trying to build, because we're now making Gucci richer when we have nothing.
Which I do like that point. And I think that goes back to the idea of what Chanel was first going over, the audience that latches onto you and the audience you're really going for.
Right. Gucci didn't intend to latch on to us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're latching on to Gucci.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up because this will kind of hone in both of the points you ladies have made this morning, which goes back to basically what Aaliyah was talking about. If everyone didn't understand, is that idea of kind of what we're seeing now, which also ties back into what Juliet is saying, is these brands that originally were targeting a higher class set of people, those who could afford it, have realized they've even attracted a specific niche market, which is, and I don't want to only use skin color because it's the hip hop culture. And these terms are important because we'll use race, but race is a little, and I don't say outdated to disregard anyone's experiences of discrimination or racism, but that's not where we're at, right? We're at the culture's point. That's what we're doing now. So the hip hop culture has gravitated towards saying, as Juliet mentioned, whether I can afford this or not, I'm going to get it. So now what a lot of these brands have done is, whereas they were only at a high end point where things were in the teens of Ks and it wasn't really considerable or couldn't be touched almost, right? Before, they've come with this higher bottom level product, right? So, and then this is where we come now thinking, oh, their strategy could be like right? But again, as Aaliyah mentioned, it's that difference between the audience you attract, which is information that helps you be able to move forward and to grow and to gain more market share, differently than the audience you've targeted, which is the information that gets you started. Right? So you've got to have that target because that's what's going to launch you into the, okay, that's what's going to launch the rest of your customer base and the rest of who you're going to entice and the rest of the needs that you're going to fulfill. It's all going to come from these specificities. Am I using cost to lead the market, or am I using product differentiation to lead in the market? Right. And I know, oh yeah, go ahead.
And another thing too, Chanel, is that even though they target the higher end clientele, what their outlets, what they do is they carry the lower end of their product and service us per se.
Precisely.
Is it
Yeah.
really lower end though? Because we consider it to be lower end because all they did was add, like factory or outlet before it, but it's still the same quality you're getting at times, depending on the difference between Versace Jeans Couture and regular Versace. But at the end of the day, it's still not meeting the low cost that we're looking for when we look at things like Walmart, when we look at things like No Frills and Porter.
Yep. Both points. Yeah, exactly that. So you will see that what I like to call top of the bottom, right? Level of kind of, it is targeting, it is customer targeting, but it isn't a low cost strategy, which is a really important way to see it, because you would be damned to think that Gucci is going to be your substitute for Walmart just because they had a sale, right? And Gucci does not think that. So we want to make sure when we're doing our analysis that we consider these type of things and just kind of take a drink and think for a second and say, okay, yeah, it might do that, but that's not what it was made for. And that's probably one of the most critical parts about business analysis, is that you want to know the difference between, yeah, my company can do that, but that's not what it was made for. And that's how like this type of specific company analysis becomes so assistive in business strategizing and business planning and even in success, right? Some of the most random companies, maybe not even passion-driven entrepreneurs, can follow these types of strategies and gain huge market share just by going by the book, right? Aaliyah?
Yeah, just I guess food for thought or a question, because I think I'm still battling between the idea of, let's say that example that Juliet had used with maybe Versace and Versace Jeans Couture.
Yeah.
Is that really cost focused or is that really differentiation focused? Because yes, Versace Jeans Couture was made for more of Gen Z and millennial, but is that catered to Gen Z and millennials pocket, or is it catered to the style of clothing? Because if you look at the two clothing, you can still find the same clothes in regular Versace. So is it cost focused now or is it differentiation focused?
Yeah, so you'll find like the same, or let me start that over. You'll find similar but not the same. So like you'll find the patterns and stuff are the same, but you're not going to find the same items. Like not like, and not everyone, depends if you're into fashion or whatever. I can tell the difference between Versace Jeans Couture and Versace Offsite. But Versace as a brand, which this is a really good question, especially for companies, there's like Armani Exchange, like these type of, so it's good that you brought that up. The company's strategy in a whole is going to be differentiation, right? Versace in itself, high-end designer. Now, the subsidiary company, Versace Jeans Couture, the goal of that, the strategy of that, let's say it's a project. So if I'm a big, high-end designer or whatever, I'm Chanel, pun intended, right? I'm doing my thing, selling my high-end stuff. And I'm like, okay, wow, like I'm noticing Versace, hip hop's all into my stuff, but they can't afford that. That's like low income, basically target market. What am I going to do? I'm going to pump less like resources, less cost, everything like that into kind of like a minimum viable product or a minimum viable version of that. And then I'm going to put that out for like less cost. So for that project, yeah, low cost is a strategy, but all in general, as a company, any high end like designer brand, their strategy is going to be differentiation, right? It's going to be, my stuff was really made in Italy. It's Italian cowhide, Goyard, hand painted by every pattern, right? Like these type of things, until they get to a point where maybe they say, based on the customers we've attracted now, we're going to maximize or capitalize on that, cut costs a little bit and give them something, because they won't notice the difference between Versace and Versace Jeans Couture. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Does it? Okay. So it's still right. Like what you're saying is correct, and you guys are correct for thinking that way. But what we want to know also the difference between the brand in itself and then the other strategies that brand has implemented along the way. Yeah. Okay. Good. And then we're almost up to 11:22. Okay. So last little point here, we've got our box in the bottom left hand, which is low cost and narrow target, right? And it's very rare that things fit in there, but I made sure I didn't want to leave this out of the lesson. Things that fit in this area are things that are kind of like farming, agriculture, self-manufactured goods, where there's not typically, I don't want to say not typically a strategy, but there's not a process, much process of like give and take, supplier, manufacturer, so on and so forth. It's very niche target based, and it's cheap. Like to be able to gain revenues or to make money and stuff is typically not the priority of those types of industries. So you'll have industries like farming and agriculture that fit into this. People who run maybe like farmers markets, that kind of stuff. They're looking for low target and narrow target audience, right? People who are looking for organic foods coming out to shop in a market. They fit that culture, fit that audience, and then also a low cost typically associated, right? So those are, I didn't want to leave you guys without ideas of what companies or what kind of industries fit into that narrow target, low cost category. Can you guys think of any? I know we have to close up soon, but this is me opening the floor. Actually, we don't have much time. So this is you guys. Let me know if you could think of any other companies that have got a low cost and narrow target strategy. And then also too, the floor's open. Any questions, comments, dialogue, anything like that, open to you guys now.
Thinking of maybe online businesses.
I love it. Who we got first? Is that Juliet and Aaliyah, or who we got? Maya?
Andrea.
Andrea,
Yes.
sorry about that. Okay, Andrea, go ahead for us.
Okay, what I was thinking about while I'm listening, I was thinking about Walmart. Where would we put Walmart was there. Okay, because I'm thinking Walmart could be not Walmart. Sorry, not Walmart. You did Costco. I was thinking about Costco.
I'm glad you brought Costco. Okay, wait, guys. False ending. I'm so glad you brought Costco up, because we did discuss Costco and there was so many conflicting opinions about where Costco would fit. Before I say anything, you guys, you tell me, Andrea, where is Costco for you in all this?
I'm driving, so I can't even look at the screen.
That's okay. No,
I think
drive safe.
Costco would fit where Walmart is because it's broad. They're selling everything. They are, they target their members, even though you have to have a member. They are everywhere. They are spreading. Yeah.
Yeah, so you would say broad, but broad, but they have uniqueness, so differentiation, or what would you say, cost? Are they high
Yes,
cost,
yes.
broad market? Okay, high cost, broad market. Is anybody else on that with Andrea as well?
They also, like, there's a loyalty factor. Whenever people have membership, no matter where you are, I'll drive to get gas because it's gonna be $5 cheaper. I'll drive because I
There
have
you
a
go.
membership card.
So this was and I'm glad we can end on Costco. We are running out of time, guys, but next week we're still back on this topic. So what I would suggest, Sakshi, if you could flip to the last slide. I'm gonna make some comments about Costco too. No. Go to slide 16, please. I'll end on Costco's note, and then you guys, what I would suggest is we'll start the session next week with previous questions from this session, and then make sure we leave a bit more time. But as it speaks to Costco, we left on slide 16, Sakshi. As it speaks to Costco, we left on a bit of an impasse in terms of the fact that Costco kind of fit in all four quadrants, right? We had mentioned here that they do low cost strategizing. So you'll drive kind of from anywhere for that low cost, the gas and some of that stuff they offer, which gas is just abroad. It's open to any general consumer. But then we've also got that higher price point, right? A lot of the stuff Costco has isn't deals. It's just that it's sold in bulk. And we've also got the target market. So we've got memberships, so on and so forth. And then we've also got on top of it the fact that, yeah, a lot of it is bulk and it is a deal as well. So all under one roof, we've got multiple strategies kind of working and turning. That could come from maybe their partnership strategy, maybe how much money the company truly has behind it. We don't really know, but the share price is high. So we can infer, right? All those things, but we left in a bit of an impasse. So we can leave that for some food for thought. I've left you guys a company analysis checklist. Like I said, keep your questions, write them down, come with them next week. We're gonna be just doing a recap of what we did this week with company analysis and then looking at industry analysis as well. So let me see some quick numbers in the chat for everybody that had a good time. I know we've got some drivers too. So drivers, please don't type to me. But for everybody else, I'll take some numbers in the chat to make sure everybody's feeling good. And we can wrap up.